We're going to go ahead and get started this morning. And I'm still talking about the call of God on your life. I'm talking about what you have been called to do. A lot of times we listen to people talk about what they've been called to do, but we wanted to bring it home so that you could focus on what it is that you have been called to do. A lot of you all have served other people and you've served them very well. But you can't forget, I'll share this story with you all. In 2003, I went to Chicago to celebrate a friend's birthday. And it was in January. And so we were standing on the corner of Michigan Avenue. And I don't remember what the cross street was, but we were standing, I want to say it was in front of the H&M store. And we were about to cross the street and the light changed and it was freezing outside. And we were standing on the corner and my girlfriend looked at me and she said, they called me Elder Melva at the time. You know, I was an elder in our church. I wasn't pastoring at that time. But she said, Elder Melva, she said, God never expected you to pick up somebody else's vision and let your own die. And those words went through me like ice, you know, and I stood on the corner of Michigan Avenue and I cried because up to that point, I had never even thought about the fact that God may have had something that he wanted me to do. I was so busy serving and honoring other people, and not just in ministry, but even in the marketplace. You know, I worked for AT&T and I had a decent position with AT&T. And, but I served my manager very well. My manager never had to worry about anything when I was working up under him. But the same with my pastor. My pastor didn't have to worry about anything, but I had served everybody well. But in the process, never even I thought about the idea. It never crossed my mind that maybe God had something specific for me to do. And so I stood on that corner, and it was in that moment that the Lord began to deal with my heart about what I was called to do. And so today, imagine, if you will, that you and I are standing on the corner of Chicago, in the cold, in the windy city, downtown Chicago, and this is what I'm saying to you. You've been faithful, and you've picked up somebody else's vision. You've carried somebody else's vision, and you've done it faithfully. Now, some of y'all ain't done it faithfully, but for those of you that have done it faithfully, you've done it faithfully. You've been consistent in the thing that you committed yourself to do. But God never intended for you to pick up somebody else's vision and let your own die. What is in you that you know could make a difference in the world around you? What is in you that can be used to bring somebody's life up to the next level or to the next phase, so that they can live a good life? They can live the John 10:10 life, the kind of life, where God said that Jesus said, I've come that you might have and enjoy life. How? In abundance, to the full, until it overflows. And so that's the kind of life that God wants you to have, but it's also the kind of life that he wants you to bring to other people. But until you recognize that you've been called to serve other people, to step out and to do something different, there's a dream in you that cannot die, that God doesn't want to die. Remember, I shared with Miles Monroe he said, the graveyard is full of individuals, full of ideas. The greatest ideas are in the graveyard. And so what you don't want to do is you don't want to die holding what it is that God has given you. You want to live full, but die empty. Why? Because you've constantly poured yourself out, constantly given. And those of you that have that mindset that says, ain't nobody going to use me, well, then God can't use you. You need to square that away. Put that away. Ain't nobody going to use me. That is how God uses us. He uses us through other people. And so, no, and I understand what most people mean when they say that, but you got to be careful saying what you're not going to do. Yesterday, I was sitting with my mentor, and she said to me, and I said, I don't want that. And she said, hold it. When you commit yourself to fulfilling God's plan and God's purpose for your life, you have to be open to whatever path you have to take to get there. And so you can't say to God, I don't want this, give me this, but I don't want that. No, you don't get that right. God is the orchestrator of our lives. And he's the one that knows how to get you down the paths of life that he's ordained for you to be. And so today I'm asking you today, what are you holding that belongs to somebody else? But while you're holding it, you've forgotten about what God has given you to do. See, it's okay to hold somebody else's vision. Somebody had to hold, we all had to hold somebody else's vision at one time. But the key is rising to the place that you realize that while I'm holding your vision, it's training and developing me for my vision. Because while I hold your vision, my vision is slowly rising. And there will come a day when the vision that's on the inside of me is going to do an eclipse of their vision, and their vision is going to go away. Not in every case. When I say go away, it means that I'm not going to carry it like I did at one time. Now my focus is fulfilling what God has given me to do, and there's other people undergirding me. Samuel L. Chan has this book called Who's Holding Your Ladder? Because it's important for all of us to understand that to get where you're trying to get to the pinnacle or to the top of where you're trying to be, somebody's got to be underneath you. Somebody's got to be holding your ladder, helping you climb, holding the ladder steady on the bottom while you climb and rise to the top. Nobody gets to the top by themselves. And I love what John Maxwell says. If when they say it's lonely at the top, well, then that means you got the wrong people around you. It shouldn't be lonely at the top. When you get to the top, there should be a lot of people that helped you get up there with you. And so we don't rise by ourselves. And so getting back to what I was saying, it's important that you begin to focus on what you have been ordained to do and what's been put on the inside of you to do, because in you doing what's been put on the inside of you, the world around you will be a better place. The world around you will change when you are able to look inside of you and connect with all of the giftings, all of the graces, all of the talents that you've been given, because I need your talents. The world needs your talents. The world needs what God has put on the inside of you. Remember, you didn't get what you have just for you. No apple tree gets apples in it because it's going to eat its apples. No, no, no. That apple tree is bearing fruit so that one day somebody's going to come along and pick the fruit off of that apple tree. What your life and my life is designed to do is to sustain other people. And so it's important that you realize that while you're holding somebody else's vision, you are simultaneously thinking about what God has given you. Your vision should always be underneath, pulsating, because the time and the day will come is that it's going to get too big to stay in the house. And here's what I mean by that. Think about Moses. Remember the story of Moses and Pharaoh saying that he was going to kill all the babies. Well, all the babies in Israel, the Pharaoh's army, they were coming and they were throwing the babies in the Nile River. Well, Moses' mother, the Bible says that she looked at Moses and she saw that God's hand was on that baby and she was not willing to kill her baby. And so she kept Moses in the house hidden. But Moses started getting too big. And there was a time when Moses, his cry went from a little infant's cry where you couldn't tell whether it was a boy or whether it was a girl because they allowed the girl babies to live. So a baby could cry, but they wanted to make sure that they had eradicated all of the boy babies. And so here Moses is in the house crying and they couldn't tell whether it was a girl or a boy. But as Moses began to grow, that cry became a little different. There was a little bass in his voice. And then he got to a place where you could tell that's not a girl, that's a boy. And when he got too big to stay in the house, what happened? Moses' mother took him and put him in a basket and sent him down the Nile River with where Pharaoh's daughter caught him. What's my point? My point is that you are going to get to a place. If you're cultivating, you're managing somebody else's vision, you're carrying somebody else's vision. While you're doing that, God is at the same time developing what's on the inside of you. So everything that you go through, everything that you experience, everything that you learn, you put it to memory. And what it does is it helps build where you are and who you're going to be. And so you're coming up, but there's going to be a time when what's on the inside of you is going to get too big to stay in the house. and one of us has got to go. And usually it's this one that's got to go. And your vision then is now at the front and center of your life, the thing that God has called you to do. But every person will walk alongside somebody else before they get to this place. And so recognizing that, it's really important for you to understand that your call is calling out to you. It's saying, don't neglect me. While you're serving somebody else, don't forget about me. Remember, I said, never go to bed without investing in you. Never close out one single day without asking yourself, what have I done to make my vision, my dreams, my destiny, my desire to come to pass? What have I done? And I'm telling you, I'm so adamant about it that if I lay down and I didn't do anything that spoke to my vision in any way, whether it's scheduling a meeting, it doesn't matter what it is, looking for a mentor, doesn't matter, buying a book, something to build myself to where I believe God is calling me to be. If I lay down and I haven't done it, I will jump up out of the bed, because I made the determination that not one day will be closed out that I've not done something to build and develop my dreams, my visions, God's ordained purpose for my life. Yes, and don't get me wrong in this. We are about serving other people. And that's why you've got to develop your dream, because ultimately God, when he spoke to Abraham, he said, Abraham, I'm going to bless you. In Genesis chapter 12, Abraham, I'm going to bless you and I'm going to make you a blessing. So it's not just you're not just supposed to be blessed, but you're supposed to be a blessing. And so your life, every gift, everything that you have is supposed to be a blessing to somebody else. But many people don't look at things from that vantage point. It's just, I want to sing, I want to act, I want to be a business person. All you think about is what you want, not connecting it to God's ultimate plan for the world. Everything that we do, you got to always look to God's ultimate plan for the world. Matthew 28:19 says, go into all the world and preach this gospel. That is the underlying motive, is to tell people and get people who are far away from God in close proximity to God. And however he uses your gifts and your talents to do that, we want to position ourselves to do it. But the part that you have to play is developing what's on the inside of you, cultivating your gifts, cultivating your talents. If you're a singer, get a vocal coach. If you're a business person, get in a master class. Do whatever you need to do to make yourself stronger. And so thinking about the fact that your call is calling you, it means that God has placed that assignment, a mandate on your life, and now he's calling you because he has an expectation that you are going to respond to that call. And so your call is calling you. You got to understand that God is saying, I put something in you. Now I'm putting a demand on what I put on the inside of you. Pay attention to it. Give credence to it. Stop your world, stop what you're doing, and make the thing that I put on the inside of you at this stage of your life, now put it at the top of your list. Prioritize yourself, prioritize your gift, because as you do that, you will find yourself moving into the next phase of what God has for you. When I was a child, my grandmother would call us in the house when it was time to eat. And sometimes I would hear her right away and drop everything I was doing, because if mama called, you didn't ignore it, but I would drop what I was doing and then I would run in mama's direction. But then there was other times that I was so consumed with what I was doing that although she called me, I didn't hear her voice. And one of my friends would say, girl, your grandmother is calling you. So that's when I would drop what I was doing and run toward the house. And then there were times that I was doing things and it was a good thing, but right in the middle of it, I would hear a familiar sound. It wasn't clear, but I thought I heard mama's voice. And I would say, did y'all hear my grandmother's voice? So the idea that she may have been calling me made me stop. and start turning in her direction, because I didn't want to get in trouble and I didn't want to miss what it was that Mama was saying. I couldn't hear her clearly, but I always knew that my grandmother wanted two things. She wanted me to recognize that she called me, and she wanted me to do everything in my power to respond when I heard her voice. And this is how it is with God. He wants you to recognize that he's calling you, and then he wants you to respond. And so it's really important when God is trying to get you to your place of significance. That's what this is all about. It's about you getting in your place of significance. And so, your significance is only as good as your ability to connect with the call of God, to connect with the plan of God on your life. Your life is why a lot of people are walking around the world saying, who am I? Where am I? Why am I here? Because they haven't found their place of significance. But you've got to understand that God is the one that gives you your significance in life. And so when you think about the word significance, is defined as something worthy of attention. Yeah. So the call that God has placed on your life is worthy of your attention. And it's in that calling that your significance lies. But why is your calling significant? What is it about it that makes it so important? Other people. Period, point blank. The call that rests on you is about other people. You'll get blessed by it, but really it's for other people. You think about Beyonce, her voice. Beyonce's voice is not for Beyonce. Beyonce's voice was for you and me to enjoy. You think about, I was watching this documentary the other day of Barbra Streisand. I like a lot of different people, but Barbra Streisand, she's a legend, from a natural standpoint. But I watched how people honored her, and they, did a standing ovation to bring her back on the stage 4 times. You don't get that way because you singing under yourself. No, she sings for all of us and everybody to enjoy. And so the call that rests on you is about other people. And that's what makes it significant. So it's really important that in these days, particularly in these quarantine days and in this new shift that's happened in the earth, that we begin to recognize that God he's crying out to us. And we've got to do everything that we can in our power to stop what we're doing and respond, because other people are depending on our response. And so when your call begins to call you, it means that people have been reaching out to God. And there are people saying, God, I need this. God, I need that. And so what God does is he taps you on the shoulders and he says, hey, I've got people crying out over in this part of the world, and I need the gift that you are to meet that cry. I need the gift that you are to meet that need. And so they recognize that there's someone who has the supply. People crying out to God are saying, God, help me. God, direct me. God, show me. God, give me. God, grant me. They recognize that there's somebody in the earth realm who can get them to the next level in life. And so your call is calling you. And what it means is that on the inside of you, you've gotten too big. Your gift has gotten too big to stay in you. It's looking for expression. It's looking to be fulfilled. And the way that you receive or walk in all that God has for you, you're going to have to become very good at recognizing and recognizing the call of God and responding. And so I'm talking about being committed to the call of God for your life, because it's time for us, like Jesus said. Remember when the parents left him in Jerusalem and they didn't know that he wasn't with them? And it's customary for the Jews. They have a lot of people around them. They didn't know that they had left Jesus in Jerusalem. And when they went back, after 3 days, walking 3 days and then turning around and walking back 3 days, Jesus said this when Mary came. She said, why would you do this to me? Why would you just take off and not tell me where you were? And his response, he wasn't getting smart. He was being matter of fact. And he said, woman, don't you know that I have to be about my Father's business? That's what this is about. This is about us being about the Father's business. It's time for us to take our eyes off of what just brings us pleasure to what's been ordained by God. It's time for us to come to grips with the fact that, yes, I'm called. There's no question about this. Too many of you, because you went through something, that was my story. I got hit in so many directions. I was like, you know what? Y'all can have this. I'm not preaching another message, counseling another soul, Facebook and nobody else, Fresh Baked Manna and nobody else. You can get rid of my books. You can get rid of my tapes. You can get rid of the ministry. I'm done with this. I don't need this. You got to realize that these are things that are going to happen. So some of you got hit and you backed up, and so you don't want to do it anymore. I'm telling you, you're going to have to fulfill the call of God, recognizing that persecution comes for the sake of the call. It comes, and so you got to, you got to buckle up, put your seatbelt on, and get ready for it. But remembering that God is with you and that you're not going to go through anything that he's not going to bring you through, So yes. Come to grips with it. You've been called. Some of you all keep asking, how do I know that you've been called? God is calling you. If you're alive and you're in the earth today, I often wonder, why wasn't I born in the 17th century? Why was I born now? Because God has empowered me just like he's empowered you. God has graced me and he's enabled me just like he's graced and enabled you. For what? For this season. People are wondering, I'm working on my master's degree and I'm doing all this research and, all of these people are saying, how do we reach this generation? How do we reach this Google world? How do we do this? Well, it caught us by surprise. It didn't catch God by surprise. And God has the answer. He has the way that we're called to reach and empower this generation. And believe it or not, the answer lies on the inside of us. He would have never put us in the earth at this season, in this time, in this space of history, and then not equip us with what we needed to be able to reach the people in this space of history. We have everything that we need. He said, I gave you everything that pertains to life and godliness. Don't forget it. And so you should never, ever again question whether or not you're called. The Bible says that we've all been given what he calls the ministry of reconciliation. That means all of us have been given the message, be reconciled to God. And so all of us will do it different ways. Some of it will do it through theater. Some of it will do it through song. Some of it will do it through dance. Some of us will do it through business. Some of it will do it through ministry. However it is that you've been called to do it, God is just saying, your call is calling you. It's time for you to step up to the plate. No longer wondering whether or not I've called you. No longer wondering whether or not God has graced you. The answer is yes. He's called you. He's graced you. He's enabled you. He's given you everything that you need to abound so that you can influence lives, not just on, those in your house, not just those on your block, not just those in your city, not just those in your state, not just those in your nation. But he's given you the goods to be able to impact lives on a global scale. Oh, I so believe that. I so believe in what God has put on the inside of each and every one of you. God has invested much in you. Don't disappoint him. Don't disappoint yourself. One of the things I tell my kids, and I'm closing with this, when my son wasn't doing well, when he was in college, I said to him, you can disappoint a lot of people. You can disappoint me. You can disappoint your father. But the one person that you don't want to disappoint is yourself. And so live true to what's in your heart. When you live true to what's in your heart, what you will see is that you're connecting with God on such a powerful level, and he will ensure that the things that are in your heart, he will put you in places to bring those things to pass. So God bless you all. I love you. Today, do something that speaks to your calling. Don't disappoint yourself. I love you guys. I believe the best about you. We're going to get where God has called us to be, and we're not going to fail him. Pray with you on Monday. Have a great weekend. Oh, let me tell you, this Sunday, come on and join me. Billy Brim's son, Chip Brim, is going to be joining us this Sunday. We're going to be at the Meslowski Park, 2200 West Bender Road here in Milwaukee, 11 a.m. this Sunday. Come on and join me. I would love to see your faces. Come on up to me. Say hi. Let's fellowship with God together. You guys have a great, great weekend. Bye-bye.